Hey everybody, how you all doing? This is Colin Ulrich, and today is something that's a little bit different. Over the last couple of days, you've seen me play some matches on the Dawn of War 3 beta. That beta is now over. But what this is going to try to do is give you a little bit of my reflection, a little bit of my thoughts on this game, as it currently exists so far. Now, of course, what we see in the beta might be different than what ends up coming out to us on Thursday. And it might be very different as the game itself evolves throughout its lifetime. But knowing that and knowing what you guys have seen, I kind of want to give you my own impressions, give you my thoughts on the different races, on the gameplay as a whole, just to kind of give you guys a little bit more of an understanding. Is this a game you might want to pick up? It's definitely a question I've heard from a number of you. I've heard some big support for it. I've heard at the same time some very, very aggressive criticisms of the game. Now, if I had to describe this game in a single sentence, I would say this is what happens when Dawn of War 2 and StarCraft have a baby. I feel that single comparison, that single union of two different concepts accurately shows really what you should be getting if you throw down the $60 to buy this game, or even if you wait till later on to pick it up in a sale. You will have the kind of sweeping combat you expect from something like StarCraft 2. You're going to have massive armies, up to 250 strong. And at the same time, you will have some very, very defined heroes that you can bring in to support your forces. At the time of release, it's going to be at least 6 distinct heroes for each faction, and you can bring any combination of 3 of them in at your own particular leisure. However, and this is something I cannot stress enough, this is not a game that's about kind of precise surgical strike combat, which is something that many of you might have expected after the success of Dawn of War 2. You're not going to be playing with just 6 or 7 squads. You're going to be playing with entire armies of men, and these or orcs or space elves, whatever you want to call them. You're going to be playing with these masses of humanity and throwing down on a field, in a battlefield that's very difficult to keep track of at the best of times. Let's take a quick moment to talk about the races that are going to be released with this game come Thursday. Now, as of the time of release, we have the Imperial Space Marines, the kind of feral, battle-driven orcs, and the very aloof and kind of moderately dignified Eldar. Now, the Space Marines are your prototypical superhumans. Anybody who has any kind of experience with the 40k universe knows that the Space Marines are a watchword for excellent fighters, and they're really, really powerful individuals. At the same time, in this game, they're not given a whole lot of necessary strength. Each of their style of warriors, whether it's the line infantry with the tactical marines, or it's the jump troops of the assault marines. Each one of them has a specific role on the battlefield, and they achieve them more or less pretty well. However, while they achieve their specific role decently well, they're kind of more or less kind of average. They're very middle of the road in terms of the skill that might be necessary to play them. And the same goes for their heroes as well. Now, I didn't exhaustively test all of their heroes. I only got to play with a couple of them because some of them were marked extremely difficult to use. And my my sense of courage kind of failed after seeing how long some of those bars are. But the breadth of hero that exists, whether it's a librarian or assault terminators, or in my actually biggest favor was a inquisitorial Deathwatch squad, the Space Marines are definitely an interesting faction to play, although I'm sure it will be kind of difficult to really utilize each of their units to their fullest. But let's go into my second explored race. You guys have all seen my orc playthrough. If you haven't, I definitely encourage you to check it out. It is safe to say that the orcs are very much an analogous kind of way to your StarCraft 2 kind of Zerg. Depending on high unit model counts, the orcs are all about throwing a mass of boys onto the battlefield, losing tons of them and still coming out on top at the end. And in that, they're a very kind of functioning faction. Every single one of them can be upgraded in a special way by gathering something called scrap, something that I utilized quite a bit in the battle that I showed you guys. Late game units for them are a lot of fun to use. Killer Cannons, Def Dreads, Beauty of the Morkanaut, which you see makes a brief appearance in that battle that is online. But at the same time, their heroes are very much kind of ability focused, and I think that there's a certain sense of timing that'll have to be utilized to really, really have the orcs be a super functional faction. Now, the final race I've already kind of mentioned before, the aloof Eldar. The Eldar in-universe are kind of jerks, really. They think they're better than everyone else, and whether or not that's true, you can't go around saying that in a universe and have everybody else, respect you. Nevertheless, inside this universe, and inside this game, in fact, they very much take on a role that you might expect out of something like the Protoss from StarCraft 2. With units that have shields, but then are far more fragile once you get past those shields, the Eldar are excellent at range and possess some very, very specialized units for melee combat. In this case, in the gameplay that I showed you, Jane Czar, for example, kind of like the greatest Phoenix Lord of the Howling Banshees, is definitely an example of that. But regardless, there is a lot of fun to the Eldar. I find myself really enjoying them. Their units are moderately specialized, not the same way that the Space Marines are, but they are definitely focused on specific roles on the battle space itself. Let's take a quick look at the more technical aspects of this game. There are those who complain about the graphics, saying that the unit models themselves look a little bit too cartoony. And I can understand those thoughts, especially about the more highly numbered models on this map. Whether it's Dire Avengers, or Rangers, or Space Marines, or just your regular boys. Yes, it's true, the armies themselves look a little bit plastic at times. But I think the area where this game definitely shines is on the bigger models. The color palette itself really is kind of gorgeous. And the fact that you can kind of customize your own look it's not an unexpected touch at this day and age. But it's still a fun one to kind of appreciate. And there are definitely times, if you want to look at something that really does take your breath away, wait for the first time that you call down a Wraith Knight, or an Imperial Knight, or the Morkanaut, or even a smaller unit. And you'll see that there is just a crazy beauty that for half a second you just stop playing. It's like, oh wow, look at this new unit coming in. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous unit. And I'm sure there might be those of you out there that disagree with me, but that's totally okay. That's exactly why I'm making this video. I'm just trying to give you my impressions about the game overall. Now, the base building that kind of was noted in early videos of this isn't really as active as you might think. Instead, you have just a few basic structures, and each kind of group has its own little bit extra oomph, which I kind of appreciate. It feels very much almost like Company of Heroes 2, where you build 3 or 4 areas, and other than that, that's your base building. You're done. Bam, you're set to go. As for the gameplay itself, I might have touched on this before, but it's a very, very massive game. There's more than once that you just kind of sit there looking at your armies and you get lost, and there's explosions that are going on back and forth, and the minute abilities that you might need to use to secure victory will get forgotten about because you'll just be distracted by plasma and shuriken cannons and just death being dealt in every single second. While the models might look plastic, while the orc buildings, for example, might even look like metal bouncy houses, you cannot deny that this game does do carnage on a massive scale very well. Now let's talk about the final picture of this. Should you pick this up for $60? It comes out on Thursday, so I mean, you definitely could do that if you wanted to. I know some of you are very concerned about that. You've asked me, is that worth the $60 or should you wait for a sale? Well, I'm going to give you an answer, and I'm sorry it's going to be kind of, an in and out answer. I'm going to say it depends. If you were looking for another version of Dawn of War 2, don't pick this up, because it's not that. There are certain aspects that might remind you of that, but it's not that game. If you're looking for something that's a little bit different, maybe you do play StarCraft. Maybe you do enjoy kind of those bigger armies. You just want to have a lot of death and destruction. Go for this game. It's not perfect, mind you, but it's definitely fun. I enjoyed myself a great deal, and I'm definitely going to continue to enjoy it as the game comes out. If multiplayer isn't your thing, you know that the Dawn of War 2 campaign was pretty fantastic, taking us through the Blood Angels, if memory serves, and their maybe corruption, maybe not uncorruption. There's a lot of stuff going on with them right now, and I have little doubt that Dawn of War 3 will continue that particular narrative. Add in the fact that for sure we're going to be getting DLC, whether it's Tyranids, or it's Imperial Guard, or most likely the Forces of Chaos. And you can bet your sweet Bippy that there's going to be more units and more heroes and more gameplay to experience. So, end result, if I had to rate this game, let's say, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it probably about a 7.5 or an 8. It's an average game. It's got moments of brilliance. It also has moments where you just shake your head in kind of a little bit of disgust. But it's still, at its core, an extremely fun game. Now, after watching me play a couple of games, you may agree with me, you may not. And I completely leave that up to you guys. I mean, I'm totally happy to hear your feedback and hear your thoughts. Definitely leave your thoughts below in the comments section. Now, for me, I've already picked this game up. I paid for it a little while ago. I threw down the $60. If you guys want to see a little bit more gameplay when it comes out this Thursday, come back and check me out. I'm going to be playing a couple more multiplayer matches. I will be starting the campaign on Thursday. Unfortunately, I have a 9 to 5. And it's my mother's birthday on Thursday as well, so it's going to be a little bit later in the day. But if you want to get some more ideas of what the game feels like, how it plays, and kind of get that final picture in your head, come back and check me out. In the meantime, thank you so much for continuing with the support of this channel. Thank you so much for continuing to come back to leave me your thoughts, to give me your games for Company of Heroes, for giving me all your support. It means a whole heck of a lot to me. And I hope that this video here has given you either that final inspiration to pick up the game, or that final realization that this game may not be for you. For the moment, it is for me. I'm going to give it a little bit more chance. I'm going to enjoy myself, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys actually in the multiplayer scene itself as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for indulging me for these past few minutes. But guys, I hope to see you soon. Take it easy, everybody. This is Conor signing off.